Yeah, g'day, Eddie. Hope you're well. Can you just give us an idea of how things have gone for you so far in France? Obviously, the training paddock, and what your mindset is towards this game on the weekend. Are you going to pick a full-strength team or roll some guys out that you want to see? How are you looking at it?
Well, everything's about the World Cup. Our target is the World Cup. We'll be judged on the World Cup, so this is an opportunity for us to take another step forward.
You, as far as the fitness areas, you thinking that Taniela might be available for you? Any other injury guys you can give us an update on?
Yeah, I think Taniela will be available. He's in full training now. Probably Samu Karevi and Josh Kenami are still a week away from being available to be picked.
Eddie, you've had this World Cup squad for a couple of weeks now. What do you think they've made the biggest improvements since that Bledisloe test in Dunedin?
Well, I think the biggest improvement at this stage is the mindset and the attitude of the players. I think, with a new captain, the team obviously operates differently, and with that brings, sometimes you go backwards a little bit in some areas and you go forwards in a little bit areas. But what I've seen with the squad is they're enjoying each other's company. We're just about to start a hard training block, so because of the travel, we've had a recovery period. But certainly all the indications are they're ready to work really hard together for each other.
Hey Eddie, a bit of positive stuff going on over there this week with a mate of yours in camp, Steve Hansen coming in. Can you tell us the reasoning why, how it kind of came about, and what he's kind of working on, what you're trying to achieve with that?
Yeah, well, I've coached against Steve since, I think, 1998, so I've got a long relationship, enjoy each other's company, and I had the thought, we always wanted this week particularly, it's a reset week for us. We've been through the Rugby Championship, done our Australian responsibilities, and now it's a reset. So we've brought in Steve to have a look at what we're doing, and it's purely like that, like a mate coming in, having a beer. What do you think? Where can we improve? And we've also got Doug Lemoff, who we've used previously to help with the coaches improve their coaching. So it's a really important professional development time for us to just get a little bit better before we go into the World Cup.
So Dane Cole's had a bit of a reaction saying, he was a little bit hurt by it, and the NZPM had a joke that, they were going to revoke his citizenship. What kind of reaction did your players have to seeing someone, like that, I guess from the dark side in a way, in your camp, working with you guys?
Yeah, well, they like good people coming in the camp. They want to get better, and they can see the value of Steve. You just look at his test record. I think he coached 200 tests. I don't know, for the All Blacks he won 80 plus percent, I think 87%. So they like good people coming in the camp, and he's a good person. So the attitude's been really positive, mate.
Just if I may, one more. You would have been across the Wallaroos statement. Do you have a reaction to what they've come out and said? And keeping in mind, and also a follow to that, like in February when you were appointed, you were put in charge of both programs, the men's and the women's. So have you been involved in what's been going on then, and where you kind of see that developing?
Yeah, I've got my hands a little bit full here. So that's obviously a secondary issue for me. But, I think it's been wonderful what the Matildas have done for Australian sport and for women in general. And we're all hopeful that the Wallaroos will do the same when the time comes about. And we're all supporting them to do that.
Eddie, you mentioned your new captain. I just wondered, how you've seen him grow already into the role. Are you seeing, like you said, that he's probably not, he hasn't had a lot of leadership responsibilities. Have you seen him really sort of start to take on that role for the team that you're looking for him?
Yeah, well, what we were looking for was a leader. Captaincy is important, but more a leader to bring the squad together. And Will's been doing that all his life, so he's had plenty of practice. And you can see every team he's played in, Saracens, La Rochelle, I was lucky enough to coach a number of the players that played with Will, and they couldn't speak highly enough of what he brought to the team. And, we went down to La Rochelle and spoke to Rowan O'Gara about his contribution to the La Rochelle team. So he's been doing what he's been doing for the last 8 years, and that's being himself. He's not a spokesman. He's a person who thinks about the players, thinks about what's best for the players. How can we get them to work hard and enjoy each other's company? He's doing what he's good at.
You say that the focus is on the World Cup. I guess preparing for France, how does their style play sort of compare to what you're going to face against Georgia in just over 2.5 weeks' time?
We're playing France, but we mightn't be playing France. Our aim is to get right for the World Cup. So, whilst certainly we're not disregarding France and we're not treating it as purely a training run, our aim is to get right for the World Cup. We've got 4 pool games, which are all going to be important. The first one against Georgia. So this is an important part of our preparation for the Georgia game.
Eddie, Ben Donaldson, a chance to get a run this week. How important to get some rugby into him, and perhaps Uli Vunivalu as well, given what's ahead?
Yeah, look, they're good options, and both of them, on arrival in France, have trained well, so they're putting their name up to be considered for the 23 against France, and certainly be good to get each of them a bit of game time.
Just how have you seen Ben Donaldson's growth then in the couple of months or 6 weeks or so that you've been involved with him?
Yeah, well, he's trained predominantly at 15 for us, but he's done a little bit of work at 10. And as a player who can play 10 and 15 and a goal kicker, he's a pretty important player for us. He's got the skill set we want, which is, to be able to play the game as it comes. We've tried to we're restructuring our attack to be much more, we want to play rather than create points to play. And what I mean points on the field, which has been the Australian style. So we're going completely away from that, and that suits his natural game. Coming out of Randwick, that's how we play. Well, that's how Randwick plays, a more natural style of game. Been really impressed by what he's doing, mate.
Eddie, just on the attack, you've got Jason Rolls come in with you. You know him obviously from England days, a couple of stints there with you. Can you tell us about how you linked up with him and what your hopes are for him, just a short-term stay with you?
Yeah, look, his job is just to add detail to the attack. The philosophy of the attack and the strategy of the attack is my responsibility. It always has been. So his job is to add detail, and even today, his first session out there, he's now looking at the video, looking to see how we can improve our running lines, our deception on our first phase plays.
And just with back to Steve Hansen, is there anything in particular I asked him to look at as far as like that observational kind of feedback thing? Anything? And I guess if I can see a shaky head there. Second part is if he picks things up, is it a fluid enough environment that you can take those things into the World Cup?
Yeah, well, there's 2 main areas, mate. Training quality, which is our way of improving, and the leadership of the team. So, Steve's having a look at both of those areas. And look, every time he speaks, there's some wisdom in what he says. So when he says something, we're listening to it, and how we can improve what we're doing. We're looking to see if we can use his advice to do that, mate.
Eddie, just a
Sorry.
couple more, just a clarity on the Wallaroos. When the appointment was made, Andy Marinos was suggesting that you would be on the field with the girls, taking training sessions. Is it fair to say that because of the work you've had already with the Wallabies, that hasn't happened yet, or have you been able to get hands-on at all? Or?
Well, I've been here since January the 29th, and I don't think I've had a day off, mate.
Yeah.
So it's been impossible. I've sat in a couple of meetings of the Wallaroos coaching staff, but that's the extent of it at the moment. They've got a great coach in Jay. He's doing a good job. And, I've reached out to him and said, if you need anything, come and see me or give me a ring. I've met up with, by Zoom, the attack coach who's up in Brisbane. So I've been trying to do what I can, but obviously, given the situation of me coming in late, it's been reasonably hectic.
They announced today a full-time coach from next year. Do you think that opens a path for you to kind of step aside and let that let that person take that role on fully? Do you think you'll need to be as involved next year going forward with
that's not my decision, mate. That's the decision of Rugby Australia and Phil Waugh. So I'll let him decide that, mate.
Thank you.
Anything
Eddie,
further on that?
with
Sorry.
Brazil's experience at at the Melbourne Storm and also the Roosters, I mean, I guess it's probably a bit late in the piece, but is that something that you can sort of mine, the information or any sort of details, I suppose, from his experience coaching with those two clubs, which have obviously, had a lot of success in the NRL? Or is he...
No, well, that's the reason he's here. He's a high quality coach, high quality character, got a bit of fun about him. And as I said, when we lost Brad, and no one likes to lose a coach because of personal reasons. But when he went, we were going to upgrade the coaching team, and we've done that through Jason, and he'll add enormous value.
Anything further online? No, Nick?
You do us after this? Or?
No, it's just an all-in today. Yeah.
Fire away, mate.
How does it feel going to your 5th World Cup compared to your 1st World Cup now? What's the emotion arriving in France, stepping off the plane?
Well, I think, every World Cup's different. With Australia, they had an established team that we just needed to regenerate a little bit. And this team's it's a different project because we've got a young team. I think 26 of the 33 have played under 10 tests. So we've deliberately gone down the path of regenerating Australian rugby. So how do I feel about it? I'd be a liar to say I didn't feel like it was daunting, but at the same time I feel like there's probably 2 young teams in the World Cup in the top 8, and that's us and France. So we're the teams with the most growth.
So the challenges get less daunting the longer you've been around?
No, they're always there, mate. They're always there, every day, we're problem solver. Every day a coach's got to solve problems, and that's all we're trying to do. And we've got to solve them quickly here.